And here we are on a lovely day to talk about
Oh,
video games with
well,
Joe Raptor and Luke. How are you, Mr.
yeah.
Joe Raptor?
Hey, Joe Raptor and Luke. Good. It's a cool day. Yeah, it's a good day. We got a ton to go over. It's good to be back. Thanks everyone for waiting in the chat there already. And we got a pretty beefy show. Quite a lot of news happened before, today actually. So perfect timing. And I've been doing pretty well. Been playing Stellar Blade with one hand, if you know what I mean. No.
Jesus Christ.
I see too many comments about that. It's like I made the all outfits video, and I'm like, yeah, I play this game for the gameplay. Like everyone is constantly making jokes like that. But
Yeah, you're like, this game is
it's
way
a fun
harder than anyone has been warning me of.
yeah. No, I saw comments like, "Oh, how is it?" It's pretty crazy how the devs got this game out so fast while they were working with one hand. All that sort of stuff.
Jesus.
There are many versions of that. But no, it's been fun. We had King's Day over the weekend. If you're from the Netherlands, you know what that means. It's basically a day where everyone. This year it was on a Saturday, so normally if it's like on a Monday, you don't have to work. But then everyone puts on something orange, goes on the street. There are concerts, there are festivals, and Amsterdam is turned upside down. But everywhere in the country, everyone is either you can like some people are like selling their old crap. So there are like a lot of people with like a blanket and then with all their old stuff, and they try to sell it. And other people are just drinking a lot. So that's kind of what my weekend was. I survived. And now the upcoming weekend, I have like a fun master class that I'm doing. So there's like a theme park in the Netherlands that's every year in May has like a gaming event where they try to sort of combine their theme park with sort of gaming things. And there will be one masterclass about long form versus short form content, and I was asked to be in the panel for that. So that's gonna be a fun time, I think. And apart from that, we're kind of waiting on Ubisoft. When are they gonna pull the trigger? You know?
Yeah.
If you know, you know.
I have no inside knowledge, just for anybody that's like, oh, maybe Luke's trying to tell us something. I have no inside knowledge.
Blink twice if you know.
I have to think that after the Star Wars Outlaws thing, that they're like reevaluating stuff and they're gonna try to walk very cautiously forward.
Yeah.
Because I think that took them by surprise. It took us kind of by surprise because we're like, we've been frustrated about monetization in these big AAA games and the multiple editions and exclusive quests. Like, we've been frustrated about this for years, and now people are noticing. Like, what is happening? And I think they were also taken by surprise as well. And so I think that they're trying to walk cautiously forward because they can't afford for like Assassin's Creed Red to be like a big blow up or
anything. So I'm curious. I'm curious if they what the learnings will be. I don't know if they're gonna change. I mean, I looked at my like local retailer, and Star Wars Outlaws is the most pre-ordered game. So of course we're still in the bubble. So I'm not sure if it's like really worth it for them to try that, because for every Assassin's Creed game it worked. Just the new prices are what's putting most people off. Like 130, it's like double the price. Never got that high. So maybe they will do like remove one Ultimate Edition item or something and make it 120. Maybe I don't know, but it will be.
Yeah, maybe they'll walk it back a little. I don't expect them to walk it back for Star Wars Outlaws because I think their hands are tied with Disney. But yeah, I agree. For Red, they might be a little more tame with it. But I also think the people that were most outraged about it are not Ubisoft's target audience with either Star Wars Outlaws or Assassin's Creed.
I mean, with Star Wars, though, you want to reach a big new audience. So I do think that it did kind of hurt them still. Like, if you have Asmongold with like more than 1 million viewers saying this game sucks, like, that's not good.
Yeah. No, I mean, I agree. They got to figure something out because they can only withstand so much of it. Obviously, like, Asmongold's audience is not like, they probably don't play anything Ubisoft. It tends to be a more hardcore ARPG community. So I don't think that they were ever going to win them over, but it's certainly bad optics to have that many people mass downvoting trailers and stuff. And so,
Yeah, 100%. Like we have Shinobi Drip here saying, does Disney get involved with the games at all? Like, yeah, they're super hands-on from what you heard during your Avatar trip as well, right?
yeah,
So.
yeah. It's gonna be really fascinating to see how everything kind of goes forward. I think Ubisoft has expressed a dissatisfaction with the process of working on other people's IP, and that's why they've said that they're not doing a sequel. They're not even entertaining the idea of a sequel to Star Wars Outlaws. They're like, nope, right after this Division, that's what we're doing. Same with like Avatar. It's not even
they
like
announced
we'll see how it does.
When Outlast comes out, they have announced like 1 year prior that they were working on Division 3 while they are starting after Outlaws is out. And there's still a team doing the DLC. So it was still like a really weird. Yeah. Also looking at the fact that nothing Division 2 has happened since then, apart from Division 2 updates. Like we had the mobile game, they were even at the Apple iPhone, I lost count, but the new iPhone reveal event, they were there and they were like, yeah, early or January 2024 is when it's going to happen. It did not happen. There were rumors about the Heartland, the free-to-play game, getting retooled. So we will see. Yeah. But we got a bit more Ubisoft stuff, but also Xbox stuff. I think this is pretty fascinating as well. I put up a tweet. I angered some fans because everyone's like, oh, you're only PlayStation. And now I posted a tweet where I was like, I think Xbox has a pretty strong 2024, while Sony, maybe an Horizon remake is all they have.
Oh, God. The Xbot Joraptor shows up.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
I got multiple hats. Hats.
No, it's the same thing. I get
with
people...
one hand I'm playing Stellar Blade, the other I'm holding.
Yeah, you got the Xbox. It's something that you run into whenever you talk about games publicly. Like I did a video earlier this year that was in defense of The Last of Us Part 2 because I feel like a lot of people unfairly dismiss the game as a whole because they don't like, you know, a particular plot point or they don't like this or that. And I'm like, let's just appreciate how freaking impressive that game is on a technical level, a mechanical level. Like it is a fantastic video game. It's kind of a reversal of the original game where it was all about the story and the gameplay is kind of where in this case it's like the gameplay is wildly impressive and the story for a lot of people is but people after that video were like, oh, Luke, the Sony pony. And then it flips. So I mean, it's also I like poking fun at Bethesda Game Studios, who are now kind of like the punching bag for Xbox. But either way, I
mean, they're bringing in the cash for Xbox right now with 5 million people per day playing Fallout. Yeah. That's insane.
Yeah,
that's
the player counts on that are outrageous. But
yeah
we'll get to all of that. With this, I mean, let's I guess start with the titular topic, which is AC Hexe. What did we hear about AC Hexe, Mr. Joraptor?
Yeah, so this, of course, for people who lost count because there are a million Assassin's Creed games announced. This is the one that is coming in 2026 from the Origins and Valhalla team. So Ubisoft Montreal basically leading this. And it should be set in the 16th century, in Germany, basically during the witch hunts. I think it's the Holy Roman Empire, if I'm not mistaken. That's the time period. And we now learned, thanks to French YouTuber Jonathan, who has been right countless of times, he has some like spies at Ubisoft who tell him some stuff here and there. He's been saying that that he heard some things, but it's Tom Henderson. There are two people that have spies at Ubisoft, but this time Tom Henderson. We do go to Jonathan in a bit though. But no, we already learned that this was the game that will have a single female protagonist. We actually talked about this on the podcast already. Currently named Elsa. Things can change, but now we learned. Hold on to your desk. She has supernatural abilities, Luke. Do you know what she can do?
Something very witchy.
Yeah, turn into a freaking cat. possess a nearby cat. Then the player controls the cat and uses it to distract the soldiers by knocking over a glass bottle, which smashes on the ground and diverts the soldiers' attention. So you would hope that there's, of course, some sort of explanation for this. But we always heard from this game it's going to be a different experience than what we had before. And the big thing seems to be that it's more linear compared to the previous Assassin's Creed titles. So, of course, Mirage went kind of back to the roots. But I would argue, of course, the moment you go out of sort of that first hour of the game, you can explore Baghdad and the surrounding desert as much as you want. That's still very open world. It really seems that this will be more like a God of War. So have linear levels. Sometimes you reach like an open area that you can explore, or you can continue with the main story. Seems like they're going in that direction. Of course, the reboot Tomb Raider games had this as well. The Final Fantasy games recently. So it seems like they're going in that direction. I always thought when they were like saying, oh, it's going to be very different, that they were also going to do something new for the action-adventure genre. But right now, yeah, we're not really hearing that. Let's see before I throw it over to you. So again, like this was a very dark period. So it should be a dark and gloomy setting. Kind of Dishonored vibes I'm kind of getting from it as well, with you able to possess a creature as well. And it should have a fair system inspired by the Assassin's Creed Syndicate Jack the Ripper DLC. So planned 2026. Again, this year we should get Assassin's Creed Red, the open world RPG in Japan. Next year, a multiplayer game by the For Honor team, PvP. And then the year after that, this more linear game. Are you hyped?
So hyped. No, I think with this, there's something a little ironic and weird about setting a game in a period during which many thousands and thousands of specifically women were executed under fear of being witches for allegedly and falsely, might I add, being accused of having magical powers and being witches. And then in this game, we're going to show that period and show how bad it was by playing a woman who is an actual witch, who actually is the thing that they're accusing her of being. And maybe it's going to be like the moral of the story is, even if we were witches, you shouldn't burn us at the stake, which I agree. Profound.
Spoiler alert.
But it's a little funny. That it's like the whole premise of it is
someone
like,
from Ubisoft is like watching this, write it down.
Oh, we should do it. Yeah. So it's gonna be very different. And I keep trying to stress this to people, because people were always like, but they just did Mirage and then they're doing this, and this is such a departure from that, and Red's going to be an RPG. I thought they learned and we're doing Mirage. No, Ubisoft is trying to do a little thing for each little subset of the AC fandom. They're not trying to please everybody with every release.
With one game, yeah.
I'm glad about. Like, instead of having every game come out and try to be Fortnite that does 50 different game modes and all that, they're just going to come along and have Mirage, which satiates, hopefully, the old school fans. Then they're going to do Red, which satiates the big open world RPG fans. Then they're going to do the PvP version. And then they're going to do this. And so their hope is to give a bunch of people different little things that they can enjoy that's more tailored to them. Inevitably, you're going to end up with people that are like, this is a terrible Assassin's Creed game or whatever. You know, I miss the days of open world stuff, or I miss the days of less linear stuff. And so you're always going to have people that just complain. But I think for the core fan base, it will be nice to just get more content for a lot of them. As for everything else, I mean,
but who's this then for? Like, if you, because I totally agree with you. That's at least what they have been saying. But it really seems that they have, of course, all these audiences. And again, I think the Mirage team is probably gonna make another OG style Assassin's Creed game without any superpowers. But so for Hexe, they're trying to reach a brand new audience. But I'm not sure who that audience is, because is there like a big audience that loves more linear games and not really open world games? that is never touching an Assassin's Creed because of that? Is what
I mean,
the audience they're trying to reach?
after all the Hexe leaks and everything, I've been trying to, because like, let's be honest, Ubisoft usually looks at a game and takes that as their inspiration for a new direction. For the most recent trilogy, it was The Witcher 3. They famously talked about that. They wanted every side quest to have a story, open world, that stuff. With this, I get the impression that Hexe is being more inspired by like God of War, or God of War Ragnarok. And so it has open parts, but God of War is much more linear than your standard open world game. And so I think that they're going to be trying to appeal to that type of player base. And this is what Ubisoft's hope is that they can come along with the Assassin's Creed franchise and name recognition, and they can come along with pretty good games that maybe scratch that itch a little bit, because everybody else is sitting on the sidelines waiting for the next game in that genre, which is very rare.
And that means that you can probably finish this in, let's say, 20 hours. And that is like a great game you can play with. I mean, you're right. Like, some people are kind of scared if we hear, because that's what's going to happen. I can already predict the headlines when we hear more about Assassin's Creed Red, how it's going to be more than 100 hours, how the map is going to be larger than Valhalla. I can already see a lot of people on the internet, why are we doing this again? Well, that's because there are people that do like that. So I think that they might, with Hexe, be like, yeah, we know that that's not for everyone, but if you want like a more bite-sized and hopefully very set-piece heavy experience, then Hexe is for you. Because with a 100-hour RPG, and that's what we really saw from Origins, Odyssey to Valhalla, the amount of cutscenes, it feels like you can count them on like two hands. Like, they're not a lot, but when they happen, they're cool. They're at the start, they're at the end, sometimes in between. But because it's a large game, they cannot do motion capture for everything. And maybe because Hexe is a more bite-sized experience, they can be like, we're really going to nail it this time. So I hope that that's the case. But we have to, of course, see more. We now have an article from Tom Henderson with some things. Like, there's probably going to be a piece of Eden, of course, that maybe this lady finds, and then she has these powers, and maybe she loses it, and then we will see what it is. But so far, I was hoping for... it feels kind of like a cheap way to make new gameplay mechanics. I was really hoping for, okay, what at the core of Assassin's Creed? How can we, for example, really do, let's find the target, let's approach it from multiple angles, have like levels that you won't see if you don't follow the target through this alley, or like really expand on the core fantasy of Assassin's Creed, instead of it being just another, like, actually, this sounds like Plague Tale, or this sounds like, again, God of War, but not something I have not played before. And I was kind of hoping that. But maybe they still add stuff like that. We will see.
Yeah. No, I mean, time will tell. I'm sure we'll see a lot more about it. Real quick,
we got some crazy donations.
Yeah, Sean, the one and only Sean. Love the podcast, fellas. Rare to catch live. Luke, because you are a Titanic nerd, there's a bit of a collector item en route. Peace, biznatches. Oh yeah, that's from the AI Todd Howard thing we watched. Yes, thank you, Sean. Yes, I am a bit of a Titanic nerd. Thanks. As you guys can tell. I
thought it was just a random boat.
Yeah, I just like boats. No, I'm a Titanic giga nerd.
It was a Skull and Bones collectible, right?
Okay, everyone, the show was fun. It's over now. Walking away. Yeah, I'm a Titanic giga nerd, and I freaking love everything about ships and I mean, really from like 1850 to, I'd say, like 19 probably the end of World War I. All of those ships just fascinate the hell out of me. So yeah, that's super cool. Thank you, Sean. Cool. Thank you for the super chat and for whatever that's gonna be. That's crazy. Thank you for that. And then Mark Eric Lane, excuse me, not to maybe spoil a plot point in Hexe, there's a note in Valhalla indicating that the Hidden Ones moved from Britain to Cologne? Is that Cologne. Oh, Cologne. Okay.
Yes. Where Gamescom is as well.
Yeah, I just haven't seen it spelled that way. I'm an American.
I think, yeah, there is something missing, but...
is it the like...
the dots on
it. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Cologne just so happens to be the epicenter of Catholic Germany, where the witch trials took place. That would make sense if they set it up where like the hidden ones moved there, and then the however many years later the story kicks off there. That could be
Yeah, for
interesting.
sure. And if it's in Valhalla, that makes a lot of sense. Like they, of course, already are planning well ahead before,
And I
before
mean,
they release another game.
it's set up really cleanly where like they can do the thing where the hidden ones probably in that area are mostly going to be women, and they're going to be like they're all going to have these kind of magical abilities, and that's why the Templars, who are the established church, are trying to hunt them all down, because it's not just that they're witches. That's just what we'll tell the common folk. It's actually because they're part of the order. You know, it's going to be that type of thing. It's
Yeah, or they have the piece of Eden that they want or something, or access to temples or something.
Yeah, it writes itself, certainly. And then lastly, Brandon, if Ubisoft pulled a Capcom and started remaking ACs in order, do you think they would get the same love as Capcom with the Resident Evil remakes? What do you think of that, Joe Raptor?
Thanks, Brandon, for the donation. I think they are. I mean, they're already going to. I mean, we have not heard anything official yet, but the Black Flag remake seems as good as confirmed. That's, of course, mostly an attempt to still get a lot out of the development from Skull and Bones, a lot of the water assets, like all the naval stuff they developed. So that's gonna be Ubisoft Singapore that mainly did Skull and Bones. So they're not gonna follow the same order. I also don't know if like really remaking every single Ezio game would make sense, because that would take a lot of years, and these games are great, but like that was a different time where those were releasing every year and people were kind of hungry for that. I'm not sure if people will wait like 6 years for the 3 Ezio games again, if that's gonna work out for them.
Yeah.
But I do think the first one is like they have to do it. Like you can't. I said it before. You can't even play it on a modern PlayStation right now. So that's a big issue. And I really think that game can use a lot of like the setting is really cool. Of course, where it all are started in terms of the game itself is going to be interesting. And I think they can make a lot of tweaks to that game to make it way better. And the setting is, of course, super awesome as well. So I totally think that game in particular is going to get a lot of love. But I'm not sure about the other ones. Like the Resident Evil titles are, of course, very linear, smaller. And the horror genre, I think, like we've really made a lot of like steps in the open world genre. So going back to these older Assassin's Creed games, even when playing the remaster from AC3 and stuff, they have to do a lot. Like I think it's way more work to completely remake that than say in a Resident Evil game, I think.
Yeah. I think,
and yeah,
you're right. We've come a long way. I do think an AC1 remake does well. I think an AC2 remake would also do well.
But then do the whole trilogy maybe.
Yeah, then you could do like
yeah.
the Ezio trilogy. I don't think AC3 as a remake clicks, because AC3 came at a weird time when they were trying to transition more into what the games are today, which are these massive open world games with like naval stuff. Because Black Flag was more of a realization of it, but AC3 came at a weird time where they were kind of in between. It was sort of a proof of concept, and there's a bunch of stuff like they have that whole trading mechanic, which is kind of an afterthought. There's just all sorts of stuff in that game that's kind of weird. So I don't know if a remake of that works super great. But if they did, I mean, they could just pick and choose. Do AC1, AC2, Black Flag, and then Unity. I really do believe there's a sort of a cult following. And
I think that's gonna do, because that game kind of deserves a second life in a way.
Yeah.
It's kind of like what Fallout 76 is seeing right now. Maybe not the best example, but like there are many examples, of course, for games that because they have a re-release or because there's like a TV show or something, they go back to that game. And I do think a lot of people, because of the disastrous launch, just did not give it the time of day.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I agree. So all good questions.
And of course, if they sell well, you will be swimming in the remakes. Don't worry about that.
If one does well, you'll get 15.
You get all of them. They're even gonna remake an Assassin's Creed that does not exist.
They're gonna remake one of the remakes too.
Yeah.
Can we please get a Black Flag sequel or remake? Yeah, well, we're probably getting the remake. I think we are, Josh. I think we are. So with all that, I think Hexe sounds interesting. It's a little bit different than I think some people are expecting, but honestly, for me, I understand why they're using the Assassin's Creed name on everything. Easy name recognition. It's going to sell well within the core fan base immediately anyways. A lot of people are like, well, just name it something different. You can do that, but we've seen them try to do that with other projects, and it just doesn't work. So it just works better to just keep the branding. Yeah, it won't be a great Assassin's Creed game where you're assassinating stuff, but hopefully it's just a good game at the end of the day.
And of course, because the core conflict, like Ubisoft will always say, yeah, but Assassin's Creed is not only about the being a stealthy assassin. No, it's about the conflict between the Templars and the assassins and the sort of lore. Like there's way more in the setting, of course. So
yeah,
they will always find a way.
It seems like the people that are most upset about the direction the newer games have come are the old school fans, or people that were never really fans to begin with. There are millions and millions and millions of players that are buying games like Valhalla and Odyssey and Origins and having a really good time, and they don't take the story that seriously. They probably have no idea what's even going on with the modern day storylines or anything. They're just enjoying playing through a recreation of ancient Egypt as a magi, and that's what they're having fun with. And I think
and that's why the modern day is of course separate now moving forward. So
so it'll be interesting to see how that cookie crumbles. It's a couple years out, of course. We're going to get a lot more information, I'm sure, like a year, 2 years from now. But as of right now, they just got their heads down. They're working on it. And it could change a lot by the time we end up actually seeing it, of course. So take it with
maybe they will. The only thing I can see happen why they would maybe do it this year is to maybe reveal more about the Infinity Project, which, of course, like the whole sort of Call of Duty style launcher, where every time you will boot up an Assassin's Creed game, you will first quickly see this launcher and then jump back into Red, but also see basically advertisements for the other games, the older titles, but also, hey, Hexe is coming out in a few weeks. So maybe to kind of tease that, they might drop another trailer for Hexe. But on the other hand, they're probably going to wait because it's going to take away from Red, which should be out this year.
Yeah.
But a franchise that we won't see for a very long time. Quickly wanted to touch on this. Watchdogs. I mean, not a surprise, but this time it is Jonathan, French YouTuber. Again, he has the spies at Ubisoft. And he responded to someone. He said, Watchdogs is dead and buried. Legion's failure destroyed the projects on the license, including a very original Battle Royale. But I mean, it's not a surprise. Of course, I covered Legion a lot. Also the post-launch, and they had like big plans for the online mode. But at one point they were like, we're not doing that anymore. So they basically pulled the plug earlier than planned. And yeah, we just never heard like good things about Legion. Like they also kind of put it out to die. They released it 2 weeks before Valhalla, which was always a really weird decision. But they did that anyways. And just the whole play as anyone mechanic, it was really great on paper, but in the end we did lack that personality, like that really the main character that we could love, like Marcus and Aiden from the previous games. So
Legion's always like, I think the way you could phrase it is it's like the most impressive boring game you've ever played. Like it's wildly impressive what it can do, but it's just they were so obsessed with whether they could do it, they forgot to ask whether they should do it. And while it might be impressive on a technical level, it just didn't really translate to that much fun. And when you have NPCs that can just take over the role of the protagonist in real time, it's impressive, but it also means that you never really take the story seriously or the consequences seriously of your actions, because there's always somebody else waiting in the sidelines to get in. I think other meta sort of overarching mechanics could have led to some interesting things where, like, you know, it was more hardcore. If a lot of people are dying under your watch and NPCs are dying while you control them, then maybe it's even harder to recruit, and eventually you could even fail and just lose and have to start over if you screwed up enough that public sentiment towards your organization plummeted. but yeah, I mean, even at the end of the day, I don't think that would even do it. I just think it was a cool idea on a technical level, but it didn't
Yeah.
translate to a lot of fun. And as for Watchdogs, it's always been sort of in this weird spot where the first game was sort of trying to be a Ubisoft GTA clone, and it had its own series of controversies and downgrades and stuff. And everybody was just like, we have GTA at home. That's basically what this is. And then Watch Dogs 2 was a little bit more unique, and found an audience certainly, but also failed to really stand out. And it fell into the Ubisoft trap of, look how hip and cool these young adults are. Wow, we're so much like you guys. We understand the young people. And then Legion was just not what it needed to be. So I'm not surprised at this. It's
Yeah. Don't expect any
foreseeable.
Ubisoft games in London anymore because both Syndicate and Legion did not do well.
Yeah,
So it
it's
will
isn't
never
that
happen
funny?
again.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting.
Legion,
They must hate that city now.
yeah, we're never going back to. Honestly, Syndicate, I'm actually quite. I'm kind of a stand for it. I think it doesn't get enough credit. People have kind of skipped over it when they look back, and they look really fondly on Unity, and they're like, we were too hard on that. Yes, it was broken pile of garbage at launch, but other than that, we were too hard on it. Syndicate, I don't think gets anywhere near enough love. The soundtrack, the ambiance, the
Yeah,
world building.
it was just the
Ooh,
order in which these games were released. Like if another game was the last one of that caliber or that sort of gameplay loop, then maybe it would have been Unity that people were not really looking fond of. Yeah, fond of. So it's yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, it's the only game of recent memory from Assassin's Creed that did not sell 10 million. So and I don't think again it's the quality. It's really that they were, yeah, it was, people were tired of the yearly release, of course, by that point, and it just did not do a lot of new stuff. Even though I thought the setting was really great, and they improved the combat a bit. I love the grapple hook and stuff, but
yeah,
apart from that, it will be very interesting to study that game though with the two protagonists, because of course Red should have that as well. So they are taking learnings from that, the Quebec studio, of course, who is making Red. But yeah, going back to Watch Dogs, I mean, they just tried it 3 times and it never worked. Like that's, I think, kind of how you can put it. And I think these games are very expensive to make because you don't only have to make like actiony shooting combat, but also you have to make cars, and they have to have AI, and you have to drive around, and you could like a functional city. Like I think it's way more like challenging than like an Assassin's Creed title where they're just people walking on the street, maybe some like horses and stuff. But apart from that, yeah, I think Legion also with that you're able to hack everything. They of course had some flying vehicles, and then on top of that, the whole NPC system. But
yeah.
yeah, I think that it will return at one point, but just will be a really long time because they are doing a movie seemingly, so they're not like completely forgetting about it. But I did like the Bloodline DLC. Did you play that? The Aiden Pierce is back DLC.
Oh no, I remember seeing it, but I
Oh,
didn't play it. No.
it was
Um,
actually kind of good. It showed you why you need like a protagonist
yeah,
in a game.
yeah.
Yeah.
I I mean, oh, I guess that's a good question. How are the other Ubisoft franchises? Are there any other that are doing bad? Is Far Cry doing good? Um, yeah, Far Cry, it's in the works. They're working on another one. Jonathan, as part of this actual this same tweet thread.
Yeah. I didn't want to bring it up because it's kind of like it did not really tell a lot of new things, but yeah, we could.
It has the number 7 in it though. And the number
No,
7
it's
is higher
totally
than
about Far
6.
Cry 7, but it's like, yeah.
That's totally new. Yeah, pretty much
Yeah.
my takeaway, I don't know what the giant crab's supposed to mean. Killing Murphy, I don't think that's even confirmed.
I think that's a family thing or something. It's like it has to do something with family. Like the Murphy is like the name from the main character. Like someone under that tweet actually yeah, was like warm according to Jonathan. So
Huh.
seems like because a lot of sites were running with the fact that he would be the the villain in the game. Killian Murphy,
Which would be
but that's of course not.
awesome. I love
Yeah, which
Killing
would be
Murphy.
awesome. And now Ubisoft was like, "Oh my god!" And then we don't announce that. We can only lose from this.
This is like the danger of trying to be extra coy as like a YouTuber, is like you can accidentally stir up a lot of trouble.
I mean, it was stupid though. Like Eurogamer ran the story for no reason. He just posted 4 pictures, and they were like, "Oh, Cillian Murphy is gonna be the antagonist in the game." It's like, what?
Yeah, no,
so it was not on him.
Jonathan corrected immediately, not even like a correction. He just said, mind you, I never said Cillian Murphy was going to be in the game. The image means something else. But I mean, people took it and were like, oh my God, it's like basically confirmed, because last time they had Giancarlo Esposito and he was so good. So now they're going to do this guy. And if you've seen any interviews of Cillian Murphy, he is like a film connoisseur and he cherishes the art of filmmaking. I don't think he takes video games very seriously.
And let's remember that the 2 games where Ubisoft went out of their way to get like a pretty expensive and popular like actor did not work out. Breakpoint and Far Cry 6. Like Far Cry 6 did fine, but it did not set the world on fire. Like Far Cry 5 did better without like any famous actor. So I don't think they're gonna do that again. Yeah. They might return to Troy Baker. Like
what they
like
should do is do a zombie game and get Will Smith.
Oh yeah, that's working out really well for what was it, Tencent or
that's a slam dunk. I'll tell you what.
let's tell nobody about it. That's like a very, very smart thing.
It's Will Smith. Everyone will just know, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's a thing that happened. It's got a timer. The Murphy thing probably refers to the name. I don't know what the giant crab, what that could be.
Yeah, the consensus. So for people who don't know, Far Cry 7, it should have like an in-game timer of 72 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So that will be like 24 real gameplay hours, and that is the time you have to save your kidnapped family. So there's you have to be you can't like fish for 10 hours. That's probably not really smart to do. Or you can, but then your family will be killed. So for the first time, really, there will be some, apart from just a few choices here and there, or a few is already a lot. Like Far Cry 5 had, of course, a cool choice, but apart from that, like there should really be consequences. And yeah, you can have a good ending or a bad ending, and this timer should push you a bit. It's kind of, I think it's a lot of people are like, what the fuck? I don't want that. I'm already stressed from work and I have to play a video game with a timer. So I really hope they figure this out, right? They really have to make sure that it doesn't feel like you're being rushed. But I hope it just means that there's just a time, like always, every hour of the game, something happens. Like NPCs move in this, or they move the kidnapped mother. I'm just saying something to a different location at the 32-hour mark. So that's I think could be really cool, instead of it being like a race against the clock, but we will see.
Yeah, I mean, it drives me a little crazy because people are always like, Ubisoft should do something really different and wacky.
Yeah.
And then they do it with this, and everybody's like, wow, stupid. They should have just stuck to what they normally do. So I don't take a lot of the complaints about this particularly seriously, especially when we haven't seen the game. It's like,
yeah, we have to see it. Yeah.
It's like when people are like, oh, Star Wars Outlaws is going to be outdated garbage. It's like, maybe. We don't know that though. Like, we haven't even played the game. We haven't touched it. Nobody's gotten to touch it as far as I know. So you can't just conclude those things. That's unfair, whether it's coming from a studio you like or don't like. You have to at least try to maintain a little bit of reserve your judgments until like the evidence is sufficient to conclude something. But with this,
but if they censor my outfits, I'm angry.
We're done. Yep.
Yeah.
You put one strap of fabric on there, I swear to God. So, but like the game that immediately I think of when I think of time limits in video games would of course be Dead Rising. And the original Dead Rising is a game I used to play with friends. This is how long ago we would play this at a sleepover one time.
Damn.
We all sat around, got the big old carton of goldfish and a gallon jug of chocolate milk. Dude, I was constipated for a week, but it was worth it. It was so great. And we played this, and it's a real-time thing where like missions basically unlock as time goes by. So there will be certain times where it's like, okay, rescue this survivor by 2 a.m. And if you don't, they're just dead.
Yeah, I hope there's stuff like that. I
Yeah.
think that could be really interesting because right now it feels like, yeah, you're thrown into this world, do what you want. But we've been there already, right? It would be cool to have some sort of, or that you have to make a choice. Who am I going to save? This or, yeah, this person or this person.
Yeah. Or am I thinking Majora's Mask? Yeah, there's ways to do this in a really cool and novel way.
Yeah.
There's also a way, like Joe Raptor's mentioning, as a potential risk that it could be played just overly safe. And it's like, yeah, there's a timer. Just try to finish the game in that time.
I can see Ubisoft, instead of like an exploration and a guided mode, be like a timer and a non-timer mode. I don't know. Maybe they will do that.
They'd probably put an option, like a toggle in this, knowing Ubisoft.
Yeah, or like after launch for people who were like, I'm not going to play with a timer. Yeah, we now put it in.
Because if anybody's seen like Valhalla, it has so many like enemy scaling options. It has like scale enemies up to me at this level within 50 levels, scale them 50 levels higher than me. Do that. Like there's so many tweaks to alter how those games play. I would fully believe that they have a toggle for this, or, you know,
unless it's like a
the in-game timer.
Yeah. Unless it's like a crucial part of it. Like I do hope that that's the case.
Yeah.
I do hope that it's more than just the timer in the screen, or like that you can pull up your watch on your arm and then see how long you still have.
Yeah, that's what I would prefer, if they stuck to their guns, like designed the whole thing around this and committed.
And then say, okay, but if you finish the main story, you can do everything you want. Like that would be, I think, the ideal situation.
Or like in Dead Rising, you can just say screw it to the main story. And if you're like trying to rescue your family in a certain amount of time, if you're like, no, I'm calling their bluff, and you just don't save them, then it's just a fail state, and it's a unique ending where it's like, yep, your family's dead. Congratulations. Go have fun. Do other stuff.
Every Far Cry game has an ending that you can reach in like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
Maybe they can do that.
Where he's like, just stay here. I'll be back. And if you stay there for like 15 minutes, he comes back.
It's like the Taken scene where he's like on the phone and he's like, I'm not gonna do that, and that's your other option, and then you just go into the open world. And then suddenly you stumble upon a house with like your dead wife, and you're like, well,
oh, I can't help but feel somewhat responsible.
This is like taking the game. Wow, finally, that's kind of cool. I wanted to quickly mention Mark because he has been did a donation for quite some time ago. Hear me out, an IO Interactive AC Hitman game. I mean, that would be kind of cool, but I think Ubisoft can make something like that as well. I think that's like a cool way to add to a Mirage type experience, like new black box mission here and there. But yeah, could be kind of cool
with like hyper replayability and stuff. That could be really interesting.
Way more than what they did now, because I still don't believe there was any different ways you could do those missions.
Yeah, it was like, oh, you can either go pickpocket people for the currency to buy this thing, or you can just
pick it from a chest.
Pick it from a chest. Yeah, and then you did. See, it's technically different. It was a little underwater.
Yeah, that's weird.
But I agree. Something like that could be really, really cool. With this, speaking of things really, really cool. Ooh. What is happening with Xbox? Xbox has a handful of things coming, don't they?
Yeah, it's we cannot call it E3 anymore. If I see anyone call it E3.
Dude, I do it so often. I catch myself so often, and it breaks my heart every time.
It's still the same. We just don't go to LA anymore. It's like all the cool stuff is gone. It's now just
It's just an objectively worse, lamer thing.
But yeah, we're still getting all the events. I have like a prediction for the Sony show in a moment, but let's first talk about Xbox, because of course Summer Game Fest will kick off on June 7th. I think is when Jeff Keighley will take the stage on the first day, or is it like 6th? He changed his day. I'm thrown off. I think
it must be 6th.
No, it is on 7, but then it will be on a Friday, and normally it's on the first day. Either way.
Okay, yeah.
And then Microsoft now announced, as always, they're always picking the Sunday spot. June 9th is when they will do their Xbox Game Showcase. And then after that, they will do the redacted direct presentation. And we all know kind of right now that they will then talk more about the next Call of Duty, which is rumored to be called Gulf War. Set in the early 1990s. Treyarch is developing it. And this is like a game that has been in development for a really long time, because the last time we got like a Black Ops game that was made by Treyarch, I'm going to look it up now. It's like a long time. So Because remember that Modern Warfare 3 had like a 3-hour campaign because they only worked on it for like a year and a half. So this year it will be good, look. This year it will be good.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. No, maybe, but probably not. They do have a lot of stuff coming. They have Xbox, of course, has the Starfield Shattered Space DLC. They have Call of Duty. They have Avowed, Microsoft Flight Simulator, Indiana Jones. This could be a big year for Xbox, certainly.
Yeah, because Verge is basically saying that they're like, we looked at the calendar over there at Phil's office, and we know when all those things are going to drop. So the September should be for the Starfield Shattered Space expansion. And we, by the way, learned today that they will have an update on May 15th. Finally, after almost a year. Damn, at this point. Now, okay, not a year. It's like 8 months. We get service maps. Did you already discuss them on your stream before? Probably, right?
I downloaded the update and we tried it.
Oh, you can like... Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow, you're way ahead of me.
If
okay,
you
nice.
if you go into Steam settings for the game and opt in for betas, which they have a little guide on how to do it on the Bethesda support website.
Oh, cool.
But if you opt in for beta access, you can download it today and you can try it. And it caused my computer to hard crash live on stream. I'm not sure if it was the game or if it's...
It was probably your computer, man.
Todd might have cursed me. I doubted him, and so he was like, hell no. But it's better. It's better. The maps are objectively way better than what was there before. I would venture even to say they're good. It kind of looked
like one of those interactive maps. Do you know those interactive maps that are like from Vextra Live?
Yeah,
and stuff?
It's like even better than that because it's closer to like Skyrim's map than those interactive maps because it's an actual like 3D rendering from top down in sort of like with very, very small assets, but it's a mini version of the map that's rendered when you spawn in, whether you go to a random spot on a planet or you go to New Atlantis or something. And then you can actually scroll around, see points of interest and everything like that. What I will say is that in the city maps, it's really nice because you can actually see the model of the city and then you can kind of move around and peek inside. But when you're freely exploring, it really shows you just how little is actually on planet surfaces when you land. Because you're like, it is just the same rocks, like same 3 rocks, copy and pasted all over procedurally across a flat zone. And then there's like the 3 points of interest, and that's it. And it kind of reminds you that, okay, so those 3 things are all there really is here. Because you can see every rock, every boulder, every building. There's no surprises left when you have that map. You can just see exactly what's in front of you. Yeah, Shinobi. Yeah, bro, the standard is so low. Lord, oh my god. Oh, maps are added now. Yeah, it's funny. It's
right.
funny.
That's right. I am surprised though by the 60 FPS on Series X. Like I did not know.
Targeting.
I did not think that. Okay.
And then they made sure to mention immediately in the video that it's paired with variable refresh rate, targeting those frame rates. So
did y'all see the footage in that video? Because I was like, ooh.
Yeah,
this looks like RuneScape. No, okay, but it doesn't look that. I don't know. It kind of looks like an early access. It's like very blocky from the footage that I'm seeing. Maybe I just haven't played in a while, and the game always looked like this. But I posted it on Twitter as well, like the part I can like share it with you on Discord.
I think
people to
you shared it where?
In the Discord.
In the okay.
Of course, it's like Twitter, but I post on 1080p. So it should
of the vehicle. Yeah, no, I absolutely agree.
Yeah, like no, but also the at like 6 seconds, you see like the performance mode.
Yeah, I will say the footage when we were watching it on YouTube in the full resolution and everything, it looked about in line. I mean, the NPCs still look waxy. None of that's really going to change. And it does seem like they are dropping things a bit.
Frames?
Like, this is interesting. Look at this. Frame rate target They have it selected, prioritize performance, target
Oh.
60, and it says if you don't have a variable refresh rate display, screen tearing will occur when selecting
What?
60 FPS or above. So they're just like straight up telling you that. And then they have in big text in the center of the screen, performance setting is intended for variable refresh rate displays. This
Oh
is
my
not
God.
like it's running at 60
But
now.
who has that on an Xbox? Because then at that point you're playing mostly on PC, right? Like,
With like a monitor that has VRR.
yeah, but then with like how Xbox is, like why would you then play Starfield on Xbox if you're playing on a monitor anyways?
Yeah, I don't. Let me see. TVs.
I did not catch the oh man, what they really have trouble. But then they're just using the VRR. Then it's probably like 40 or something, and then they're using the VRR to get it up. I don't know, man.
Yeah, I mean, modern TVs more commonly support VRR, but
But you need to have the HDMI cable as well. Like a lot of like regular people won't have that. Like it won't be as easy as switching that on.
I would certainly say a lot of people are going to be excited for performance mode and not
Yeah, and-
realize they don't have VRR.
Yeah.
Or don't have a VRR display.
Then we can
because-
finally see who can really see 60 FPS. All those people.
Yeah. Well, yeah, my old 2018 Norcat says doesn't though.
No.
I have a I think it's a 2019 Sony OLED. I love that TV. It's in our bedroom, and that's a great TV. Image is still amazing. It doesn't have VRR, but that was like I got it when I technically worked as like a Sony rep selling TVs, and so I got it for like way less than price, because it was just, they were called commissions or something like that. But anyway, I got that thing. And
Grimsy says the Xbox comes with an HDMI 2.0 cable. I did not know that, so that's nice.
yeah, it comes with a nice cable, but I mean, I think a lot of people are playing these consoles on displays that are a few years old, and they're gonna boot this up and have screen tearing out the ass and be like, "What the hell is this?" Bethesda screwed it up again, even though they're being justifiably very, very upfront. This is intended for VRR displays and stuff.
They are.
But I want to be clear with everybody. Like,
I mean,
this is not going to lock it to 60 when you flip this switch.
I'm gonna wait for the PS5 Pro version, I think, later this year. Don't you think?
I don't think you might be waiting a while.
What?
No.
I mean, we got other news. Let's go to other Xbox news. I want to, before we like put a pin on the, or like, let's finish the whole Xbox show thing. So again, Starfield, Shattered Space expansion in September. Like, that's of course the thing with the update. Those things should have been there at launch, but they're doing it now. Great, but like, if you've played a lot of Starfield at launch, you were kind of over it. There will be no good reason to return until this DLC if you want to play more Starfield. And they're really kind of hyping it up. It's like something big. They took a year to make it, so
yeah, they're putting a lot on it. They say it's going to be massive.
Let's hope it's a good. Yeah, let's hope it's like a renaissance for that game. And yeah, a big thing for you. I was immediately thinking of you, the whole space vehicle thing, that they are finally adding that, so you can like ride across the barren wasteland.
Yeah,
sort of.
The way they described it was like, we've begun working on our first like vehicle for driving around. And granted, it is a work in progress. They are not saying this is final, but even in this footage that they revealed, it is chugging, and it has a boost meter. It looks like it's basically a horizontal boost pack that is routed to this model of a rover that probably moves forward pretty close to the same speed as a player when they're sprinting, which defeats the purpose of it. And like, it could get better. I hope they've done a lot of work on data streaming and stuff to make it faster, because that's the big thing. We were just trying it earlier in the stream this morning with the new beta, and we just decided to run from our ship to a point of interest off in the distance, and it took us 7.5 minutes to get there. And these updates aren't going to fix that, this could potentially help with it. The rover could, but like Starfield's still Starfield, even after all these updates. I know it's fun to get excited that there's at least something new.
Yeah,
but...
and the best content was mostly inside a more like urban style for as far as that can be, like a more like crowded space. And yeah, you won't have the rover there anyways. Like I think the Shattered Space expansion is not gonna like. I think you will only go to planets that are actually designed for that DLC with some cool things hopefully there.
Yeah. We'll see. I mean, Bethesda has a good track record with DLC, like big expansions. I thought Far Harbor was great for Fallout 4. I thought that was awesome. And Nuka World, a little bit less enthralling, but still, I think an interesting and kind of novel expansion. So they typically do a pretty good job with DLC. So I'm hopeful. That that will do a lot. But
we'll see. I mean, September is a great timing for it because, like, unless it's like very close to Star Wars Outlaws, like go for like mid-September or something, I think would be good for them. And then like they planning Call of Duty late October, not really a surprise. Avowed and the Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 likely to arrive in November, and then Indiana Jones and the Great Circle to follow in December. So I said it on Twitter. That's where people were like, "Ooh." Like Sony does not have any major exclusives until at least March 31st, 2025. Probably like beyond that point as well. While I think Microsoft has a pretty solid lineup. Like every month on Game Pass, you have something big, like Call of Duty, of course, launching their day one. I don't think they've really said it, but it's kind of what we expect. They have not said otherwise either. Avowed, hopefully that delivers. We were, of course, not really blown away from what they showed, but it's still Obsidian, so we hold our fingers crossed. And I really think Indiana Jones is going to be a fun game to end the year. Like, fun, like, weekend. And shoot some Nazis.
Just, shoot some Nazis.
The Christmas feeling.
Yeah, the Christmas. Get you in the mood. So yeah, Xbox got a lot coming. Ubisoft has a lot coming this year as well. I think there's they also, the game I keep forgetting about, also we forgot to mention it before with Xbox, Hellblade. Yeah, in like 2 weeks or whatever it is.
So like, much hype.
Yeah, everybody keeps forgetting it's a thing. And I keep asking people on stream, like, am I just in a bubble? Am I not like the target audience? I haven't seen like any ads for it. I haven't heard any discussion of it. It's just nowhere to be found. And no one else I've asked has seen anything for it other than like...
I mean, they can't show anything more because the game is 6 hours. So if they show like more, then you will probably have played it already. It feels like you've played it already. I think a lot of people have to put their money where their mouth is with that game. Like if you want shorter games, linear only, buy this. Because we're seeing a lot of people are like, games are too long these days. And then nobody buys a game that is exactly what they say that they want. But yeah, we will see. I mean, it's of course a Game Pass thing, but still, I want to maybe support the developers. I'm really curious. I'm mostly just curious to see if this was worth, because they bought this studio way back. They put like hundreds of millions of dollars into this game and into this studio, I think. It's a smaller studio, but still with the technology they use and stuff. This game has to be a 9. Like this has to be it. Yeah. Otherwise, I kind of worry for the future.
There is just a lot of kind of odd stuff. And I'm saying this as somebody that loved the first Hellblade. I mean, you guys who have seen the critique I did of it way back in the day. I loved the first Hellblade. I thought it was really novel. It was risky. It was fascinating and captivating. Like, of course, it had a couple of hiccups and issues here and there. But I thought it was remarkable in the purest sense of the term. With this game, though, it's just odd to me that this is, like Joe Raptor said, a game that they've spent hundreds of millions of dollars on. And there's very little effort seemingly being put forward to market it, to hype it up.
I mean, they can still change that. I mean, again, we are in this day and age where games just get like a trailer 1 week before or like a release date a few weeks. So, I mean, we have someone in the chat here. Let's see. I can't see the name now, but they said that they saw like that Neotheory is saying that they're going to post something about Hellblade every day now on Twitter. So they're going to... Oh, it's Keon here. Tweeted today they got something for the game every day till launch. So a new concept art every day. Look forward to it, please. But yeah, we will see. I'm looking forward to playing it at least. I really hope this is one of those games, the first game that really shows you, damn, these Xbox games can look really good as well, because I think it's probably going to be a lucker. We got EQA as well, and I hope I pronounce it right, saying that no exclusives in existing big franchises. Sony does have stuff coming. That is true. But again, like comparing that to Microsoft, that was kind of my point. It's like an Astrobot is nothing compared to an Indiana Jones, for example. And they might have like an Horizon thing as well. But first, I quickly wanted to hear your thoughts on this, because I already joked about it. Starfield coming to PS5. Like, I think Hellblade is probably... I think the audience is on PlayStation 5, because, of course, the first game did very well on PlayStation as well. And we're kind of in a weird situation with Xbox, where they, of course, don't want to, like, put everything on the other platforms, but they launched Sea of Thieves yesterday at the time of this recording, and it was like the most pre-ordered game for a really long time on PlayStation. So they are looking at it with the Microsoft CEO Nadella saying that they were at one point in April, they had 7 games among the top 25 sellers on the PlayStation Store, which was more than any other publisher. So they're really kind of talking about themselves as a third-party publisher here. And he then also once again said, we are committed to meeting players where they are by bringing great games to more people on more devices. And again, this is after they've launched their first 4 games. So I really think it's like a matter of time before more games are coming, because we also learned in their financial, the financials that Microsoft put out, that the Xbox hardware for the full year revenue declined 31% year over year. And that's really bad, because last year it also declined by 30%. So it was already not really doing well, and now it's like doing even worse. And that was in a year with Starfield, with a new Forza. And the year before had no exclusives at all. So even with those big games, sure, you can think Starfield was still a big moment, even though it did not really, looking back on it, it could have been way bigger. But if your Xbox sales are still down 30% with probably your biggest game that you will have in the next couple of years, then that's not really good. So all they can then... So they're like, okay, maybe let's bring more games over to PlayStation. But then the Xbox platform is like, why would I buy like a console? Like, they, by doing that, of course, make the hardware less appealing as well. So I thought it was interesting to throw that in as well.
No, I agree. I mean, I think if there's anything that would push more Xbox games onto PlayStation, it's specifically the fact that Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft, is talking about it. And we know that Microsoft has been struggling to stabilize the gaming side of their business. It's been hemorrhaging money. As a result, they've really slowed down with games they put on Game Pass. It's not actually as easy as it once was. It's sort of like when Netflix was giving everybody, massive checks to produce an exclusive series for them. And then they realized, oh, we can't make money if we do that. And then they started to slow down. That's kind of where Microsoft is now. And they're picking their battles much more intentionally. But the fact that Satya Nadella is bringing up very proudly to investors that they are dominating the PlayStation sales charts, that to me says more than anything Phil could say.
Yeah.
Because if Phil is like, no, our those people on YouTube and Twitter, they said they're gonna burn their Xboxes and they're gonna sing songs about how upset they are if we put more of these games on PlayStation. Satya's gonna be like, I don't care.
Yeah,
let them weep.
We just spent however, like a 65
70
billion or what, 70 billion on Activision Blizzard. I want to see that. I want to see some money from that, Phil.
Yeah, and I think he wouldn't necessarily be wrong. I mean, I think there's, at the very least, I think they'd have to be clear. Games will be coming a year after the launch. But I mean, I think we're also...
That's not gonna work, because then people will wait. Like if it's like, I think the approach will be not say anything, and then just after that launch, when like the hype has kind of died down, then create a new moment where it's also like, and it's coming out in a few weeks. I think that's the better approach.
What I
And that
would,
will really anger Xbox fans, but
yeah, but
like
I mean,
then it's still like up in the air, right?
I think what's probably going to happen, honestly, and they're probably both companies are looking at each other right now. We know that Sony is looking at trying to go more multi-platform. They found a ton of success with Helldivers, and the current guy that's the interim CEO has said many times he wants to push for multi-platform releases, and they want to expand
I actually
that.
got a small thing that I want to insert there. Like Helldivers 2 is on its way to become one of Sony's biggest releases ever. So we just had the US MPD, so basically the US sales for March. It's now Helldivers 2, the 7th game like of all time that Sony ever published in terms of dollar sales, and it's less than 3 months on the market. So of every game Sony ever published in the US, it's number 7, Helldivers 2, in less than 3 months. And Matt Piscatella from the MPD then says, PC has been a huge part of the success of Helldivers 2 in the US. With PC, Helldivers 2 is already the 7th highest grossing Sony published game in history. Without PC, it would not currently rank among the top 20. So yeah, that really proves your point as well.
Yeah. Well, so I think a lot of the Sony executives right now who are not like the guys that are currently in charge of the gaming business after Jim Ryan left are not people who have that big of a stake in gaming. They're not gamers themselves. They are businessmen through and through. They are looking at it as dollars and cents. So I think what Sony's doing is they're probably going to start bringing stuff to PC much faster. Probably not Xbox, but probably to PC. And I think once Sony starts doing that and PlayStation fans start freaking out about it, we probably see Xbox quietly announce, oh yeah, we're also going to sort of be doing that, bringing more games to PlayStation as well. And we'll probably just see margins increase that way for both sides, where we'll just start getting more games releasing on every platform because it just makes more money. Like the exclusive game worked well in the PS4 gen, but I just don't think it works when games are this expensive to make.
Yeah, and also, again, you see Xbox sales were down 30% when they had way more like actual exclusives. Like remember the year 2022 for Xbox. They had Pentiment. That was their big game. And then in a year with Starfield and Forza, their sales were still down. So it does not matter for them anymore to have big exclusives. You could argue maybe if they had like some bigger quality ones, sure, but I still don't see people in this day and age jump over to another platform for just 1 or 2 games anymore. That's just not how it's working.
Well, Marius, I see your comment. Companies who cater to consoles don't owe PC gamers anything. Nobody's saying they owe PC gamers anything. They're saying that PC gamers have a lot of cash, and there's a lot of them. And so if you can sell your stuff to them day one, maximize revenues, to a businessman who is not emotionally tied into the PlayStation ecosystem or like trying to keep like console fanboys happy, to him, he doesn't care if you're going to be upset. He's like, no, you're still going to buy the game though. He's like, if I take God of War, whatever this next one is, and I release it on PC day one, guess who's still going to buy it at full price? You. Even if you're upset about it also going to PC. Like that's where they're looking at it from. And they just see like, why would we release it just on this one platform if we don't have to and we can make way more money? The only argument to do it the other way, or the more traditional way they've been doing it, is to try to double dip. So you do it on PS5 and then some indeterminate period of time in the future, you release it on PC. And then you get PC gamers that buy it. And you also get PlayStation 5 players who bought it once already. How big is that
group? I don't think that's like a really big group. But I think, of course, the main reason, like really going back to why they first never launched games on PC is what Xbox has now been doing. Like, if every Sony game launches day one on PC, then nobody who owns a PC would buy a PlayStation. While with like a GTA 6 coming out, a lot of people are going to buy a PlayStation because they want to get, or an Xbox, because they want to get that experience. And there are a few games like God of War or Spider-Man that can push people over that edge. But what we're now seeing is that I don't think that's worth it anymore. And what you really see with Helldivers 2, and of course that's also a community-driven game, but having that one moment where all eyes are on this product instead of 2 smaller moments, like in this day and age, it really feels like we're moving from hype to hype, right? Where we're
Yeah.
it's like every Pal World, like we already forgot about it, but it was like like the biggest thing in January. And you, as like, if you work for like 4 years, spend 200-300 million dollars on this game, and then are basically locking out a lot of potential buyers in the hope that they buy this $500 machine and the game, and those times are just kind of over, especially with streaming services being way better than ever. Like, we can leave our house again. Like, people are spending way more time on actual things outside of the house, touching grass and all that stuff. I don't know what's that like, but like, I really think that you are right now fighting way more for people's attention. So then to also have that huge money barrier, it's just not, from this day and age. Like, also TikTok, like, I think we have articles about how people spend 2 hours a day on TikTok. Like, that's 2 hours that they're not spending on their PlayStation. So that makes buying that console for $500 for those people less appealing, while they might own a PC where they will jump on that game way easier. So I totally think there are gonna be a lot of like changes happening, and I think it's for the best. Like, if you have a huge Times Square advertisement for a game that's only a fraction of the people that might want to play it can buy, that's like money not very well spent. Well, if you put it on more platforms, obviously that would change things. And there's a Netflix show coming, so like, if more people will maybe watch that. Like, it's really about like putting your franchise, I think, out there and having a lot of barriers to enter, or is, I think, not great. And that's what we see with Fallout. Like, you can play it everywhere.
Yeah, well, and
easy.
that's really helped them. I mean, I think you're right, and especially the part you said about our current sort of culture being built on just hype to hype, or what I would say is like, it's also a FOMO culture too, just a fear of missing out, where everybody, like, I had people that were saying, should I try Helldivers? I hear it's really fun and my friends are playing it. It doesn't look like my kind of game, but I feel like I should probably try it. That right there is somebody that would not, I guarantee you, buy the game if it were launching a year later on PC. But the fact that it was available right then and there, everybody's playing it, everybody's talking about it, people want to give it a shot. And capitalizing on that wave is huge. And we've seen it in the content creation space, where we'll cover a game for a month or two and then it's just dead, but it's moved on to another kind of meta where everybody's talking about it and obsessed with it, and then it shifts back. Maybe another old game comes back into the conversation, like Starfield. But in general, we just move from thing to thing. It's much less of a
And it's a snowball effect as well. Like, if more people can play it, then more people will make content about it, and then maybe more people will play it, and then more people will make content about it. And if you really limit that audience, then of course, at one point you will reach the ceiling. And that's what we're seeing with the Final Fantasy games, for example, that kind of are stuck on this PlayStation console and are kind of only appealing to the same audience. While it would be great if they were on like more platforms as well. And if you're ready to move on, then I can bring in this Final Fantasy point real quick.
Do it to it.
So we, of course, talked about this already quite a lot. And I just want to say that we were totally right. So Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is now the 14th game. Again, we're talking about the US versus all the other Final Fantasy games in terms of sales. So there are a lot of Final Fantasy games. The new one, Rebirth, a lot of hype, at least in our corner of the internet, but it's only number 14. While the first part of the remake is number 2 in terms of sales. So that really shows you that Rebirth, sadly, while it is my game of the year, I love that game, is not doing very hot. And Dragon's Dogma 2, which we predicted here, already outsold it in less than a month on the market. So Square Enix is kind of like in a hard spot right now. If your biggest game, that again you probably spent a lot of millions of dollars on, is not performing well, then you want to change some things. And that's what they're doing. They actually just were like, okay, we're cutting ties, or we're just like pulling the plug on some of the projects that we're working on. And that cost them $141 million doing that. Several projects that were in development have been canceled. And it seems like to my surprise, I was like happy to see this, that the stock market was kind of happy about this. Their stock increased by 5 points, or like basically 6%. And what they're basically going to do, instead of like, they really want to make sure that all the big games they launch kind of hit. And yeah, right now they're in a really tough situation. While Capcom, like, I think Capcom, there was also like, they had their financials as well. They're incoming, but they already said, hey, we're doing better than expected. And that's because every game in their catalog is doing well. The Street Fighters, Dragon's Dogma 2, that's another thing. It already sold more, Dragon's Dogma 2, in 15 days than Dragon's Dogma 1 and Dark Arisen combined.
Yeah,
that's wild. So they're nailing it. And Monster Hunter Wilds, like, World was huge. Wilds is probably gonna be very big as well. So it's great. It's like, damn, what are we doing wrong, right? So
yeah, because I mean, you look at Rebirth, and on a quality level, it's there. Like, it's it's there. Like, there are some things with it where, you know, like the performance mode is super blurry and things like that. But are people choosing not to buy the game because of that? Maybe some, but I don't think that many. I have heard lots of people saying they're just waiting till the full trilogy's done and then they'll jump in. Which honestly I think is probably fair, because I'm somebody that also does not really connect with episodic releases. I don't really like that. So doing like a trilogy to remake one game is like, okay, I'll play this, and then I wait 3-4 years, and then I play the next chunk, and then I gotta wait 3-4 years, and then I play the next chunk. So okay, I'll just wait till it's all done. And realistically, by then it's all on sale, and I can get it for cheap. And for Square Enix, it's too late.
And then it's gonna be 300 hours to finish everything.
Yeah, like I just think for a lot of this, it's the hardest core Final Fantasy fans probably were looking at it and were like, no, Final Fantasy VII's great. The first part of the remake did well and people enjoyed and was really, really good. And so I'm sure the next couple of parts would be good. But I think it's just a fundamental miscalculation thinking that there would be people that would just be jumping into Rebirth without trying remake, or that they would be going and buying remake and then trying Rebirth after that, when these parts are huge. Like, for a lot of people, it's just not practical to be like, okay, let me put everything in my life down and play 80 hours over here, and then I'll play another 80 hours over here. It's just too much of a time commitment for people, even if the games are really good.
Yeah, and I would argue that the first part of the remake is kind of quite a different game in terms of the fact that it's way more linear than Rebirth. So it might be that you like the first one and not really dig the second one because it has way more of the open zones.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it was always a hard sell. Like, it's very, like, they're kind of like, their hands are tied now. They have to make the third game, and are they now going to put less money into that? Like, that's not a good thing either, right? So, but yeah, they're still gonna do it. I hope they are not like decreasing the budget on that, because they're like, yeah, we don't even make the money back. I don't know if it's that bad, but it's still, yeah, the Rebirth. Like, remember at the Summer Game Fest last year, it was like the big Jeff Keighley like kind of hyped it in the wrong way. It was like, everyone has been waiting for this moment. They were all like, GTA 6, let's go. And then it was like Final Fantasy Rebirth. And well, yeah, that was like,
and that precisely shows you, I think, unfortunately, Square Enix kind of bought into their own hype, where there's a very committed fan base of Final Fantasy players. They love it. But that's a very devoted group. And everybody needs to understand that, like, to have a AAA game be profitable in 2024, you have to have mainstream appeal. And what we've seen time and time again from Square Enix specifically is that Final Fantasy just doesn't have that same appeal to the mass market. If you're a fan of Final Fantasy, you're loving Final Fantasy 16, Rebirth, Remake, you're eating it up. And you're eating well. Yeah. But if you're not in that group, for myriad reasons that we've been through before on the podcast, I think people have a little hesitancy to buy into it. And Final Fantasy 16, they're like, I've got to play the other 15. No, you don't. It's fine. But it's also like really kind of slow and sluggish. Oh, I'm not sure. And it's also a massive game. Oh, geez, I'm not sure. There's just so many speed bumps to get there. And it's also, for whatever reason, like, I've seen this in the content creation space, and maybe you've had a different experience, but I have found that these are games people like to experience themselves, but content on the games does not do well. Whereas content for Capcom games almost always does well. And maybe that's just a reflection of the overall interest in the games. I think it also has to do with the types of games, because people want to play Final Fantasy VII Rebirth themselves. They don't want to listen to me talk about the story or anything. They just want to play it themselves. And I think that also harms it, because when content creators can't pump out the same kind of content they would normally do for a game, it's going to be pigeonholed as well.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have already decided if they like Final Fantasy or not, and nothing that someone will say about how good it is will change their minds. And then the people that do like it, that will watch those videos, like 50% or more, is like you said, I'm gonna experience it for myself. So then you have a very small part of the audience that is gonna check it out. I did have some success with it, but that was mostly the tips, because again, Rebirth is like a big game, so there's quite a lot to collect and talk about there. But like, the videos totally performed worse than the remake did, while I was a way smaller channel back in 2020.
Yeah.
So that certainly is interesting, and that already, like, that's always when I usually like go on Twitter and say, "Oh, this game is not performing." It's mostly it's really based mostly on that, because I don't think that. I mean, I'm seeing a lot of success with other games, so it's not that my channel is doing bad. It really, of course, has to do with the amount of people that play it, so actually are caring about the tips as well. But yeah, I hope they can like find their success. Kingdom Hearts, I think, is the same. Like, there's a huge audience for it. Maybe with Star Wars, Marvel, if they're gonna add that. Although Marvel might be interesting, because they have, of course, the kind of Sony deal in place. Like, we, for example, know that no other team can do something with X-Men as long as Insomniac is making those games. So, but yeah, maybe they can appeal to a bigger audience. Like, there might be a TV show or a movie happening. So let's hope it. And I hope that when 16 launches on PC, it can find a bigger audience, because they are some of my favorite games right now. I love these new Final Fantasy games. I even played like the Crisis Core remake they did last or 2022. I think they are amazing. And yeah, but I totally get that people, again, what we said, there's so much entertainment right now, and the barrier to enter these Final Fantasy games is steep. Like, I talk about it with my friends as well. Like, do I have to play all the other 15 to get into 16? No, but yeah, it's super hard to understand. So they really have to go like for a hard reboot, or I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, I think the easiest fix is right off the bat, you try to lean into one of the metas, and I'm describing this as not as like a disrespect to the franchise, of course, for everybody. I'm saying, like, if I were trying to make a Final Fantasy game that finds the same success as a Dragon's Dogma, the things that those games do really well are like the big set pieces. They are graphically stunning. The music's phenomenal. So I think like your standard adventure game could do really well. I think little things like the hybrid turn-based / real-time combat system for a lot of people is just enough of a barrier that it turns them off. So I think full real-time is just where more casual.
Yeah,
and
they have been doing that.
Yeah,
of course.
And they've been
like,
shifting there.
Maybe they should have called like Final Fantasy 16 just like I don't know, something completely different, and then more people would be enjoying it. But that's, I think, the issue they find themselves in, because Forspoken was, of course, kind of that. Like, that was their attempt at a new IP that hopefully, like, you did not need to have any like prior knowledge to jump into that game. Now, that game, of course, has many other issues. One of them also was that you saw, like, they're both the same price, but Final Fantasy 16 got all the budget, because that's a Final Fantasy title. But they really have to look at it from another angle, where they're like, I know it's scary, make a new IP based on sort of the Final Fantasy mechanics, but have it be a new IP that hopefully appeals to a bigger audience, because there's no chocobo in it. Like, you don't have to know, like, you don't have to be scared that you come in and not know all the Easter eggs.
And dear God Almighty, they have got to get some outside feedback, because everybody that tried Forspoken within 45 minutes was already like making clips and TikToks and YouTube shorts of all of the cringe dialogue and stuff. And like, You saw, I actually, like, I hired my YouTube Shorts and TikTok editor because he did a series of like compilations with other streamers of just their reactions to how cringy the writing in Forspoken was. And I thought it was really well done, so I hired him. And like with all of this, it's just baffling that nobody on that team saw that coming. But it shows you that they didn't have any of that outside feedback coming back in to tell them, guys, this will get crucified if you release it like this. Any one of us could have seen that and told them. The fact that nobody did is really worrying to me. So I think either way, there is some sort of review process problem, at least with that team that now doesn't really exist anymore. And with Square Enix, it just seems like they've maybe rested on their laurels, but even then, like, they're doing good stuff. They're making good games. It just seems like the games they're making do not grow the fan base. They are really finally catering to a very devoted community, but they're not really growing it. And that's the problem.
No. Yeah, for sure. We will follow it. And of course, them finally launching 14, because 14 is kind of keeping them afloat. Of course, the expansion cannot come soon enough for Square Enix, because that MMO is, of course, like doing still very, very well with the monthly subscription in this day and age. So one final thing I wanted to quickly talk about. I've been teasing it a bit during the show. Luke, I got some bad news for you. The Horizon Complete Edition, it's leaving PlayStation Plus Premium on May 21st. Are you crying? Is it
I'm
hard for you?
devastated. I mean, I'm shocked.
I get it.
I know there's been some like stuff with the PlayStation Plus collections and with the whatever it is with the free game that they give, just the PlayStation Plus monthly whatever things, I guess. But some stuff with that, where there was a question when Fallout 4 the next gen update.
That was like a whole thing.
And there was some drama over whether those people that got the game for free were going to get the update. My understanding is they all did, or will, or whatever.
But people thought that they did, and the crazy part is the game was $5.
Yeah, it was like really throwing a fit.
But like a few days before, they did change the price before launching the update, so they were kind of sneaky. But I looked at it like a few days prior, it was $5. But I'm saying this because, of course, like you are alluding to, sometimes deals with third-party publishers, at one point they disband. Like, they're like, let's put the game for 1 year on PS Plus, and then after that we remove it again. But yeah, Sony owns Horizon Zero Dawn, so why remove it right now from PlayStation Plus Premium? Well, we of course had rumors about a Horizon Zero Dawn remaster, a well-deserved remaster of a 2017 game
that still looks phenomenal.
And it's 60 FPS on PS5. But I do like we have, of course, the free roam. If you're listening on Spotify, we see you. Thank you for that. There you of course have the very cool art where you see Geralt and Aloy stand in a field. We see a tall neck in the distance. Like Horizon, one of my favorite franchises. And to be fair, if they are making the like, one of the things that did not age well in Horizon Zero Dawn, I'm not sure if you remember it, but when the characters were talking, it did not look great. Like, the mouth would move and you would see like their torso, and that was it. And their head would kind of move a bit, and that was kind of it. So that did not age well. And then in Forbidden West, they took it to the next level. They mocapped almost every freaking side quest thing as well. It was not necessary and probably cost them way too much money. But yeah, what if they use that technology in Zero Dawn? Like, that would, I think, be cool. And there were, of course, some gameplay improvements, some machines, like they used the assets already in Forbidden West, like the same machines are there. Put them in Zero Dawn again. Give them some new moves. I really think that a Zero Dawn remaster could be really great if it's like that. If it's just prettier graphics, which is not even possible. If you boot up that game, it's still beautiful. Although, of course, if you put Forbidden West and Zero Dawn next to each other, you do see the difference, obviously. But there's a TV show coming on Netflix. That's probably why they're doing it. But I think the date, May 21st, is very interesting because I Googled. Yeah. I did some research. I looked at the PlayStation Showcase date last year. And you know what that was? It was a Wednesday. I think it was May 24th. And so them now removing this game on May 21st, a Tuesday, would be one day before a potential PlayStation Showcase. So lock it in, PlayStation Showcase this month, May 22nd. Horizon remake will be announced or remaster. And then, close your eyes.
Okay.
But we've also been working on a brand new way to experience the Horizon universe.
Oh, God.
And then... And then we see the
with
live
that
service
sound.
again.
I want that sound.
Yeah.
Black screen. And then
Yeah.
Horizon online. Yeah.
And then and then you have the online project that we know they've been working on for a really long time. So that's their attempt at like a Monster Hunter style game that they are probably gonna launch after Monster Hunter Wilds. But hey, like I think if they're gonna announce the remaster and not do anything else, then it will be like, oh, Sony, you're the master of remasters. Like this generation has been really bad. But if they do they have to do the online project after that, because otherwise everyone will be
well, especially when they connect that they've done this, that they've taken it off the collection just so they can sell it back to you. Like,
oh yeah, but they did it for Last of Us 1, I think, as well. So this is like Sony common practice, because they don't want you to go back to that old version for free, basically. If they're gonna sell you the Zero Dawn remaster, probably for $50 or more.
Yeah.
Depending on how much content there is. And then I have one bonus prediction: pre-order the Zero Dawn remaster for early access to the online project, alpha or beta.
Oh,
you can take that tip. I mean, then you also get the people that are like the huge fans, right? To maybe double dip on the Zero Dawn remaster. Maybe they would not buy it at first, but now they're like, hey, I want to see what this online project is about. But I'm holding my, how do you say that? I'm like kind of scared, Luke, for this online project. I really worry for the graphics. If it's like a Fortnite thing, it won't go over well.
I agree.
We don't need this. The Horizon franchise is already an easy laughing stock. I don't know why. These games are amazing. Still, people always find a way to put it down. And if they like release a game with like colorful graphics, that just feels like it's made for the Gen Z.
Yeah.
I can't be there to protect it anymore. I'm throwing my
can't go down with the sinking
flag.
ship.
Yeah.
Well, so my stance on this is somebody that is not that into Horizon, and I mean we've talked about it before, we've debated it. I just find them to be good games. Like I don't find them to be anything that special other than graphically. I think the first game was really novel and crazy, just coming out of nowhere and blowing us all away. And then Forbidden West, for me, was just painfully safe in almost every way. And even then, like it really didn't feel like a big sequel. My biggest complaint with Forbidden or Zero Dawn was that it felt like a really impressive tech demo that was stretched into a full game. And I was like, the sequel, though, I'm sure can turn all the knobs and blow me away. And the DLC they did for Forbidden West got me excited at the prospect of that, with all the snow and more varied environments and stuff like that. And then we got the sequel, and it felt like, okay, well, this kind of feels like what the first game should have been, but it doesn't feel like a huge leap. So I've been constantly left just underwhelmed. And in addition to that, narratively, I find the games just to be also totally lacking. Like I find Aloy to be painfully uninteresting, to the point where like anytime she has the potential for a vulnerability, instead of just giving her something to be vulnerable about, they bring along this actual clone and are like, see, she's vulnerable because she's not as cool as Aloy, and it drives me up the wall. But with all that said, I think the current the feeling within the zeitgeist, the world spirit, is that all of these big corporations are pushing for live service games in a soulless corporate way just to milk gamers. And one of the clearest visual representations of that is with remasters and with like multiplayer games that are just trying to do what Fortnite's doing, or just trying to do what Rainbow Six is doing, or any of these others. And if a game comes along and checks off even a couple of those boxes, it's crucified because people are sick and tired of it. And from what we know of the Horizon Online project, I agree. It sounds like it could just come along and check an uncomfortable number of those boxes, where it comes along with a battle pass, it comes along and it has the cartoony graphics, it has, you know, especially for a franchise that's known for really impressive stuff.
Emotes, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I think to a lot of people it'll just turn them off. And as we've seen with Rocksteady, it's not that easy to go from making single player stuff to going into online live service games. It's kind of a big shift, and they've hired a lot of people to do it, but that still doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be done well. So I think, like, if you imagine it on a spectrum, I've used the example before of, like, you know, if it's just a line and you start in the center, totally apathetic, you don't care one way or the other about the game when it's announced. I think already the Horizon multiplayer game starts at like -10 out of like 20, or -50 out of 100, just because people are so burnt out on taking beloved like first or beloved single player franchises and trying to turn it into live service stuff. And so it's got to be really freaking good to bypass that. Otherwise, the response will be bad.
To be fair, I do think that the sole idea of this game, like hunting these dinosaurs together, has a lot of potential, because that doesn't feel like something where they were like, we have the Horizon franchise, how can we make this into a live service game? It's like, no, it was pretty clear. They even wanted to do a co-op mode in the first game. Like, they of course have a multiplayer roots with Killzone. So I do get that, but my worry is mostly that they were like, okay, but how are we gonna do this? And Sony really wants a Fortnite style game because they get 30% from all the Fortnite money, and every quarter they're like, damn, that's a lot of free money. What if we made the game like that ourselves? So I really hope that they are not like, let's make this for a bigger audience, and then they're basically making it for no one, because the hardcore fans love these cool graphics. The more, I mean, mature teams, not really, but there are some things happening in that game that I think are pretty well done. They don't shy away from some like some mature teams, maybe not less like the other big RPGs, but it's certainly not like a kids game in that sense. And if this feels like that with like colorful characters, and I mean, we had the art, of course, that leaked from 2020, so 4 years ago, but still, yeah, that did not make me like give me a lot of like hope. But we will see. We've been talking about it a lot. Again, I do think if my prediction is true, or if it will be a little later, there will be a PlayStation showcase, probably before Xbox. Sony has been doing this for many years now, and that seems like a nice winning formula. And yeah, having Horizon there, like removing it now from PlayStation Plus, they're planting the seed, right? So
I mean, you know, what would be...
we will have our answers soon.
I agree. I think you're actually probably right about the May 22nd showcase. I think that makes sense. You know what would be absolutely freaking hilarious, though? Horizon Zero Dawn launched right next to Breath of the Wild, of course. And a lot of people said that might have hindered its success, but it still was very successful. But it could have done maybe even better if it had had a little more space. And then Forbidden West launches right next to Elden Ring for some reason. And a lot of people claim that hindered its success. Wouldn't it be freaking hilarious if they announced this Horizon Online project after all this time? And they're like, okay, when's Shadow of the Erdtree launching? Okay, we're launching the same day, because they seemingly are unafraid to do it. We don't know exactly when this is coming. But
no, I think it will be way. I mean, I think they should be more scared of Monster Hunter, and it's probably launching after that. Like looking at the job listings, they're still looking for some pretty senior people on the project, even though they've been working on it for a very long time. So yeah, we will see.
I agree with you though, and we've said this many times on the podcast. If they get too close to Monster Hunter, I mean, even if this launches as a live service game, which is what it is, and it does pretty well and gets some players, the second Monster Hunter comes out, I think they lose a good number of players who are just going to go play Monster Hunter.
Yeah, and otherwise you have all those people invested already, and Monster Hunter is a game you sink a lot of time into. So to do that again in another game, they have, like, I mean, Guerrilla Games have been putting out really great games. So I think the game will be solid, but we will have to wait and see. It's going to be a very fascinating month if we have, like, maybe Assassin's Creed Red reveal this month, Ghost of Tsushima 2, like we have the PC release. Like Sony is laying some dominoes, like they're ready to knock them over for some interesting things, I think. It's gonna be a few or very interesting time in the coming weeks, and we will of course be discussing it here on the podcast. So thank you for joining everyone in the chat, but also if you are on, damn, we're at 69 reviews on the Spotify and still 5 stars.
Nobody vote.
So
That's it. We're calling it there. We can stop the show now.
Yeah. Although,
thank you, everybody.
If you want, you can leave a review.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. You all are wonderful. We appreciate the gosh darn heck out of you guys, as always. Going back, I think we might have missed this super chat from Mark. I'm very sorry, Mark, for missing that. Mark with a $2 super chat. Mass Effect Andromeda figured out vehicles, and BGS still can't. Yeah, but Mass Effect Andromeda also had its fair share of issues, to be fair. To be completely fair. They also had some hiccups.
And you could not have like 100 sandwiches on your ship, so
yeah,
it's like what you want, you know.
You got to pick your battles, man. They pick the potatoes and sandwiches.
Yeah.
You get other stuff. So, so there's at least that. Let's see. Anything else? Any others? Of course, thank you, Karasaki, for subbing with Prime, and Redbox Gaming for also subbing with, or not Prime, just subbing at Tier 1 over on Twitch. Hello, it's still E3 for me. Yes, it will always be E3 for me. We'll see. I mean, my hope is I will likely be out in LA around that time.
Whoa.
So my hope is to actually see some of this stuff in person, and I guarantee you guys, if I run into Todd Howard, I will give him a candle with his face on it, as a gift and a sign of respect for all of the crazy things that he has done, such as trying to kill my PC today.
Okay,
it'll be a moment for the ages. They're not going to let me anywhere near him, are they?
No.
No. As for, I'll just go up to Todd. Nice to meet you. I've been following your work for a long time. Why did you crash my PC? Why would you do that? Can you help me understand, please? Anyway, much love, everybody. You all are fantastic. We'll see you very, very soon. Hugs and kisses. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.